Hello, this is George Hutton with the Mind Persuasion Podcast. Today we continue our study of Weaponized Hypnosis. For more information, please visit mindpersuasion.com/weaponized-hypnosis. Today's fully written story is called Public Torture. Part 1, Stories in Their Natural Order. Story 1, Movie about Stanley and Livingston. 1A, saw a movie about explorers. 1B, a lot of it about Stanley and Livingston. 1C, went into the unknown. 1D, lots of vicious tribes. 1E, lucky they didn't get eaten alive. Story 2, ancient tribal torture techniques. 2A, many tribes had horrible practices. 2B, torture and eat their enemies. 2C, slowly boil them over several days. 2D, kill them slowly and loudly. 2E, only way to send messages to enemies. Story 3, Torture Museum in England. 3A, documentary on European Torture Museum. 3B, lots of horrific devices. 3C, slowly break your jaw. 3D, make you sit on a spike. 3E, make a public spectacle out of a painful death. 4 experimental surgery horror movie. 4A, horror movie. 4B, experimental surgery. 4C, doctor liked to torture people. 4D, she devised a way to keep people awake during surgery. 4E, they could feel and hear everything but not scream. Part 2, Stories in the Order to Tell. 1A, Stanley and Livingston. 1B, explored Africa. 1C, lucky they didn't die. 2A, many primitive tribes vicious. 2B, torture and eat enemies. 2C, boil alive slowly. 3A, documentary about European torture. 3B, Museum of Torture Devices. 3C, break jaw slowly. 4A, horror movie about a doctor. 4B, experimental surgery. 4C, loved to torture people. 4D, kept them awake during surgery. 4E, so they could feel everything. 3D, sit on a spike slowly. 2E, public pain and humiliation. 2D, make sure they scream. 2E, use to maintain power. 1D, unknown territory. 1E, many vicious tribes. Part 3, word-for-word script. R. Anchor, SP, self-point. I saw this interesting documentary the other night about Stanley and Livingston. You know about them, right? I guess one guy went looking for the other. He disappeared in Africa back when everybody was afraid of the place. I guess in some parts it was pretty dangerous, especially if you wandered into some tribe's territory where you didn't belong. I suppose it's lucky they made it out of there alive. I guess some of those tribes, and lots of tribes, have some pretty intense ways to maintain their power SP structure. When they kidnap enemies or whatever, they don't just kill them they make sure they torture them in the most horrific ways. I mean, they want everybody to know what happens when you challenge tribal authority SP. I mean, they would come up with really creative ways to kill people really torture people very slowly so they could feel the pain as long as possible. They wanted it to look really painful. They wanted them to really feel the pain and they wanted them to scream and beg for mercy for as long as possible before they died. I mean, that would be the best way to protect their dominance over everybody. Sometimes they'd boil people alive over like several days, just heat the water up until they started screaming and then cool it down. Can you imagine that? Being in a pot of water so they would heat it up. You could feel the boiling water on your skin, just tearing your skin off. You can't help but scream and everybody from miles around comes to watch. They want to watch you be tortured to death I guess that's a good way to maintain authority. Anybody that would come and watch you slowly be boiled to death over several days would become obedient SP to the authority of the tribe. I saw this one documentary on European torture techniques. I guess they have several museums of torture. Some of the devices they thought were horrible, like some that were like muzzles, only they slowly opened your mouth. They would put this thing in your mouth and there would be a crank. And when they would turn this crank, you could feel your jaw being slowly opened more and more. Pretty soon you could feel your jaw break, R, and you'd start screaming, R, but they would just open it up a little bit more, maybe half an inch every couple of hours. Can you imagine that, R? I saw this low-budget horror movie about this doctor. She was really smart, and she had all these government grants, and she had all kinds of government connections. She was researching these new surgical techniques that were supposed to be the latest, greatest invention or whatever. But what the real story was that she was secretly inventing a new anesthesia so the patient would not only be awake during surgery, R, but they'd be paralyzed, R. And they could feel everything, R. I mean, this person was a real sociopathic sadist. She loved to torture people, R. And she'd have these surgeries in this huge observation room so the person being tortured knew what was going on, could feel her cutting, R, into him and describing everything. She'd purposely take her time, go really slow, and everybody would watch and tell her how smart she was. But the crazy part was she would say things. I mean, on one level, this SP sounded like she was talking to the people around her, but at the same time, these same words, SP, were like her talking to her victim, saying, I, SP, know how much this hurts, and I, SP, enjoy hurting you. It was the craziest thing. Of course, all the patients would go insane, R, since she more or less tortured them for hours at a time. But some of these devices would tie you up and slowly lower you so you were sitting on a spike, but not all at once, maybe an inch every hour or so. And they'd do it in public so everybody could come and watch, R, just slowly lowered onto a spike, feel it going up into your intestines. Some people watching and pointing and talking like they were watching a movie or something. But those ancient tribes, when they would torture you, R, they had to maximize the pain, R, and they had to maximize how loudly you'd scream, R, how long you'd scream. It's a pretty good deterrent, but going into Africa, I mean, back in those days, that must have been pretty cool. Every day, you don't know if you're going to have it easy or maybe get kidnapped, R, and tortured to death, R. I'm George Hutton. Thank you for listening to the Mind Persuasion Podcast. For more information, please visit mindpersuasion.com/weaponized-hypnosis. I look forward to speaking with you again soon.